Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Horse Business podcast with me, George Betson, the equestrian business strategist, founder of Fonshaw Equine Transport and all-out equestrian business enthusiast. And on today's episode, I'm bringing to you another perspective on the perspective that you perceive to have of your own business and yourself. That's right. Based on the episode last week, I've been really thinking about how we create our environment and how we believe it is seen. So I wanted to bring this straight to the table because it's very clear to me that whilst things can often be going well, most of us have a negativity bias. And often it's actually the sum of other people's opinions than necessarily your own. So what do I mean by this? Well, the equestrian industry, I don't need to tell you because I'm sure you're well aware, has a bit of a stigma of being very, very hard. You have to work a lot of hours to earn any money. Sometimes you don't earn any money. It's impossible to run a business. And like me, when I was a child, I was told to steer clear, create my career, and then look to get horses in the future. And I'm not upset that that opinion was put across back then, because I can see why now today that would be an ordinary individual's, when I say ordinary, I mean an individual outside of the equestrian space. I can see why that would be their opinion. It's tough out there. And we're running these livery yards, we're running these saddleries, we're running all of these other equestrian businesses from, I don't need to name it, but horse boxes, building of them, transporting. This is something I know very well. But you've got saddleries, shops, tack shops, physios, dentistry, veterinary. I mean, there's a lot of equestrian business out there. And some of it does really well. But most of it is a hard slog. It's dealing with a lot of people, there's a lot of challenges out there, high costs, very high increasing costs in most of the equestrian space, and not a lot of support for everybody else. So I can see why, particularly in our space, we have this bias towards talking down of the industry, talking down of the possibilities of building a business here. And it's really come to my mind now because on the back of last week's episode, where I spoke about not knowing where I'm going, not knowing exactly the direction we're going in, which I know many people relate to, and I have had a few people message me about it. Often that stance that I was in last week was coming a little bit from a negativity bias. It was coming from a place of perhaps those younger years where I was told it's impossible. Although this is exactly the paradigm of it, because I've proven it's possible. You're proving it's possible. And I just wanted to highlight it because you're not alone. And actually, through connecting with others in the industry, it's just a really powerful way to boost each other's egos, but in a really constructive way that's helpful and not blowing your head out of the water kind of approach. And it's something I've been really, really aware of lately, because I think, I've done a lot of work on myself over the past couple of years, and I'm very well aware that network is often said to be your net worth. If you haven't heard that before, I would be surprised. But if you haven't, you've now heard it. Your network is your net worth is a very, very common phrase put out there, because essentially the sum of the people that you surround yourself with in business is opening more and more opportunity for you and your business. Now, I'm going to relate this cross industry. I'm also in a property industry space where you can go and be in a room of hundreds of people and everybody in that room wants the best for each other. So you can go there, ask the questions you want to ask, get the help you need if you're in a different area or in the same area as somebody. Ask them how they do what they're doing, what they do, and learn from them. And it's so transparent in that space. But coming here in the equestrian space, which I've been in for many, many years, and actually reflecting on that versus this, it's not the same mentality. And that too pushes us towards our negative bias, because we haven't got the support of one another. We're not working together when we could be. How many businesses out there could... So I'm getting a little bit passionate about this, but how many businesses of ours out there could grow exponentially if we just worked or built or collaborated with somebody else doing something similar, different or indifferent? Like, I just think some people are missing a trick there. And I just think the whole point of mentioning about this network is really to remind you that the negative biases do exist in all humans. It's just a common trait. We all do it. We all get to a point and we all go to the worst case scenario rather than the best case, because we're looking to protect ourselves, as everyone is. We're looking to ensure our own security, our own futures. And when that's in question, when negativity comes in, the negativity builds. So, if you're going down that road and you haven't got a network to talk to, then here's something that you could do. Because again, it's all about perception. The perception of somebody when I was a child telling me the equestrian business is no good is very different to the perception of the reality. It's not easy, but it's also very good. Where I'm going with this is I really want you to think about actually how far you've come. When those negativity biases are coming over us, which is our natural go-to instinct, why not think about how far you've come? Why not think about, if you hadn't have done what you're doing today, would you be where you are today? Have gratitude with where you are. Have gratitude with the progress that you're making. And it's so much easier said right now, sat here talking to you on the podcast, than it is done. Because that's exactly where I was last week. I was looking at the negatives. I was looking at the worst case scenarios. I was looking at the impressions that had been put on me in my past were creeping up on me. And it took that conversation with somebody else to bring me back to my gratitude, to bring me back to actually look where we are. And it's also really important at this point just to mention that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, it's also not to be comparing yourself to others. Because I really do believe that through my experiences that comparison is the killer of all progress. Because when you're comparing, you shouldn't be comparing. Because where I am today is not where I was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So if you're stuck and you're heading in this negative bias and you can't get yourself to a place of gratitude, don't ask somebody who is also in the place that you are. You need to find that community, those people that are 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ahead of you. But the mistake people make is they look for those people and they go, wow, you've got this fantastic business, equestrian transport, you've got several lorries, you're flying on social media. Yeah, but that's only 5 years ahead of you. So ask the questions to that person and say, hey, this is where I am, and I really want to get to A, B, or C. What are your thoughts on that? Have you got any opinions? What did you do? But don't ask it and expect to get the answer to be where they are today. Ask it and frame it so that they take themselves back to where they were when you were once there. And that's the joy of being who I am today, because I relate to this, because whenever I'm asked a question, I've been through the journey and I can take myself back and say, well, actually, when I was where you are today, I was doing this, this, and this, and that is why I got to here. And that is what anyone could do in a community with you. You could meet people who have done what you're doing, are newer than you and are just finding their feet and need some assistance from you who's already got started. If you're listening to this episode, there's a very good chance that you too have horses. You must be, or are quite likely to be, in the equestrian space. Well, I wanted to make you aware, if you don't know already, that I am the director of Fonshore Equine Transport. We are a national horse transport business offering the very best vehicles, the safest and the cleanest spaces for your horses to travel in. So whether it's a trip to the show, trip to the vets, or perhaps you've bought a new horse, we have got the service that you need. And not only that, I now offer consultancy. If you're an equestrian transport business or an equestrian business looking to get started in any area, well, you should get in touch, because alongside this podcast and the network of people that I am building here, I also want to help you. So find the link in the bio, in the show notes, and let's connect. Well, the long and short of all of this really is, one, be aware of your negative bias. We've all got it. It's our natural instinct. When you go into a negative bias, particularly in a space where there's so much of it, let's jump to gratitude. Let's consider, is what we are feeling the perceptions of others being put onto us, onto the industry? Or is it actually the true reality of where I am today? And through looking at the gratitude of where you've come, that should hopefully bring you back to the perspective that's real for you. One of the great tools that I use is called GPS. Now, if I asked you what GPS is, most people will say, well, that's like a sat-nav. It directs you. It gives you directions. They're on your phone. You've got GPS on your phones. GPS is in our cars. And this is why this one's so fantastic, GPS. And it's something that I was taught by a mentor of mine. And I wanted just to bring it to you all, because I'm sure we all have tough days, particularly heading down into the winter months in this industry. And it's all about GPS. G, gratitude. Gratitude first. Always first. Where have you come? What have you achieved? What have you built? Imagine somebody else looking into you and what you're doing. Because there will be somebody that's looking at you, wowed by what you're doing. So I can hear some of you probably saying, well, that's not true. Why would anyone want to do this? I guarantee there'll be somebody where you look at somebody ahead of you and go, wow, I would want to look like that. There'll be somebody else looking at you exactly the same way. And I absolutely guarantee it, because I never believed that was the case myself. So gratitude. Where are you? What have you achieved? Where are you on your journey? And be grateful for it. Be grateful for those lessons, however tough that they were, because without them, you wouldn't be here. And then P is perspective, which I've mentioned a few times. Look at yourself and put yourself into the real perspective of things, not what someone else is perceiving and putting on you, not what your clients are allowing you to perceive onto you, but actually yourself. Take that gratitude. Wow, look where I am today. 3 years ago, I had, 3.5 years ago, I didn't own a horse box. I now own 3 horse boxes. Wow, what a privilege. Suddenly my perspective, I'm back in with myself, my perspective, I'm going, that's actually quite an achievement. But George last week didn't feel like that. So gratitude, perspective, and then service, acts of service. So take that gratitude and then go out there and offer it out and serve other people. Have gratitude, look at your perceptions, and go out and use that to serve others. Because those three things will make you feel a whole lot better. That's something I practice really regularly. Having gratitude, taking that perspective, and using it as a service afterwards. Whether that's a nice voice note once a day to a friend, family, or different person, just spread it, because that makes you feel so good as well. So there we go. I've talked about negative biases and how surrounding yourself with the right people, not the wrong people, having gratitude for where you are when you're in those moments of negative bias, realizing how far you've come, realign your perspective at that time, continue that outwards into the world as an act of service, because that is ultimately the best feeling in the world. And so now I want you just to take all of that and think about if you could overcome the negativity and you start acting through gratitude. How could that change where you are today for a year's time? How crazy would it be if a year from now you can say that that was the best year you've ever had, and the only thing that was stopping you was your negative bias? Or it wasn't the only thing stopping you, but your negative bias built upon other people's perceptions was totally removed, and you used a community of people to help you move forward and overcome that. The right people, the people that are doing what you want to do, that are just slightly ahead of you, but not too far ahead, because you don't want to be overstretching. Think about how just by doing this on a daily basis, one day of taking that negative, going to your gratitude, reshaping it into your perspective, that one day might be negligible. You might forget about it the next day. But do that for 30 days. Well, think about how much your life is changing. Your outcomes are going to change because your whole outlook changes, really. And I'm talking about this because it's something that I do myself. And I'm sharing it with you because I don't believe I'm alone in sometimes feeling these ways. So I wanted to finish on this. It's a quote I heard from Chris Williamson earlier this week, and it just sums things up for you, or for me, certainly. And it's very much bigger picture, but it does it does tie in exactly with the process that I've talked about today. And he says, figure out what you want, ignore others' opinions. Do so much work it would be unreasonable for you to fail. Realise then it never mattered to begin with. Help others once you get there. And you've already achieved the things you said you wanted to be successful. And I don't know if that makes sense to you. I'll read it again. Figure out what you want. Ignore others' opinions. Do so much work it's unreasonable for you to fail. Realise it never mattered to begin with. Help others once you get there. You've already achieved the things you said that will make you successful. And I found that really, really powerful. And I think that sums it all up. At the end of the day, all of us as humans are going to have our negativity. We're always going to have a process that we need to manage and go through this GPS process and have gratitude for where we are, because we're always striving for more. We're always aiming often too far ahead of ourselves. And actually, it's the journey which is going to take you on where you need to be. There's no skipping. There's no quick route. There's no answer to all of our prayers that can be happening overnight. And actually, if there were, we wouldn't be able to hold on to them. It's through these processes, through the wins, fails, challenges, and negativities. It's through the gratitude of where we actually are and re-looking at ourselves. And it's through not caring what other people think about us in this industry and realizing that it does work for us. We just need to get the right recipe. If you're stuck and you need help, get involved with a community. Build a selection of people who support you and your business, and do it with people who have been where you are. And something I've not actually quoted yet. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with. The 5 top people that you hang around with most is what they say in all literature is the sum of who you become. So maybe you need to reconsider who you're hanging around if you are not getting where you want to get to. Maybe you need to consider how they're holding you back. And imagine a year from now when you could turn around and say, that was the best year of my life. Thank you ever so much for joining me on this episode. It's been an interesting one. Tried to keep it real and really just relating it to last week's episode and just trying to share some thoughts on that side of it with the negative biases and actually having gratitude for where we've come, because it's a process I go on regularly, and it's a process which I think really will help some of you out there, particularly in the hard winter months, particularly when the going gets a little bit tough. Remember, you're doing what you're doing for a reason. You're doing it because you know you want to. You figured out what you want, and just ignore what other people say. At the end of the day, if it's what you want, you can make it work. If you need a little bit of help, find a community or people around you who can actually help you do that. And that is all that I'll finish on. I just want to take 1 minute of your time just to say a huge thank you to you for joining me on this show. We have had we've been inundated with support on social media for our podcast and everything that's gone on so far with the show, from our guests to you guys following. It really has turned this into something I never imagined it could be. With over 36,000 downloads, nearly 10,000 subscribers in the first 6 months to June 2025, I'm absolutely blown away and so thankful and grateful for you joining me on this journey. Please, if you enjoy the show, please follow us. You can watch us and listen to us now on Spotify or find us on your favourite podcasting platform. Your support means everything to us, and it really allows us to take this to the next step. We're working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you the next biggest equestrian podcast. So thank you ever so much, and we'll see you again next time.